Hi everyone, my name is Priya Mistry. I'm a multidisciplinary artist and I work across performance and visual art. I work under the name What's the Big Mystery? My training and background is dance, theatre, film, photography and visual art forms, and I straddle those to make performance, film, enter into collaborations with lots of other artists, creatives and attend to residencies. I have a socially engaged practice, so I'm a socially engaged worker, a creative producer, and a consultant. Hello. Today I'm going to talk about the LABbody Workshop, tools, folds, rolls, and frames. This is a residency project that took place at the Centre for Contemporary Art in Derry, or the CCA Derry, in the March of 2021. So what I really remember is that this project took place during a lockdown. So I travelled up to Liverpool by train and across to Belfast by ferry, and then took a very scenic train to Derry from there. And I was only a handful of people in the country that was travelling from anywhere to anywhere else at the time. So there was hardly anybody on public transport. And when I arrived in Liverpool, which is normally a really busy, vibrant city, looking out from the train station to see nobody was really odd. It was a little bit apocalyptic. It looked as though the city had been abandoned. When I arrived into Derry, the gallery was closed to the public and it remained closed for the duration of my stay there. And originally I was meant to have a workspace, but due to the many restrictions that were in place at the time, the gallery itself actually just became my workspace, my studio. At the time, there was an exhibition that was installed, or just installed into the space, entitled Tricks of the Trade by an artist called Jan McCullough. It was a work that spoke about kind of industrial workshop spaces, like dealing in woodwork or metalwork. And the gallery was split into 3 sections, and the work took place across all 3 of those. And it was very architectural, and it's really the kind of work that speaks to me and that I enjoy very much. And both Catherine, the curator, and myself knew that this work was going to be on at the time that I was invited across, which was a really deliberate decision, because we thought it would be really nice that the work was in situ and available to me as an artist to visit. But as it turned out, I ended up living with the work and working with the work in the background. So the exhibition was a sort of installation that became a backdrop, but it was also a stimulus at the same time. And this idea of a working workshop became for me like a working laboratory to be in. And I took on the vocabulary of the space. So there were planks of wood, and these walls of colour that extended into these like sheets of coloured paper. I had these folding measuring sticks, the kind of like woodwork pencils, and wheels. Wheels came up quite a lot as well in the process. And I also had a pair of roller skates with me too. I didn't know what I was going to do, but everything came together really well. I spent a lot of time negotiating with the materials, what it means to work with the materials. Often there was a lot of repetition, a lot of trial and error, seeing what was working, what was possible with the materials when the body and the materials met. that also speaks to my experience of craft, and crafting or working with those kind of materials being the kind of problem solving or function making. So it's kind of this thing of the body and the tools meeting, and what happens when the tools or the materials meet with the body as well. I found myself thinking a bit about French New Wave cinema approaches. And in filming, I was thinking about location, the light, this sort of non-linear approach, but still feeling like you were traveling between the spaces, because I think that spoke to how I experienced the exhibition. And I was the one person who spent the most time with that exhibition, because nobody else was actually allowed in to visit it. So I was really familiar with it. And the way in which every single space had this element of framing going on that was different in each of the spaces. So I was thinking about traveling and about frames. In the space, I had a camera, like a camera phone, and I remember attaching it to a rolling platform that was, I think it was made for like rolling a television or something. So effectively, I made a kind of dolly, and between two of the gallery spaces, there was a slope that went down. So I attached it, and then I travelled down the slope with it. And I also made frames around the camera using rolls of coloured paper, using gels with shapes cut out in them, and something else, I think, as well. So there was something at play between travelling, rolling, moving between one frame to another, travelling from one part of the gallery to another part of the gallery. So travelling being really important, wheels being pretty important, and this sort of motion that you had, which later on came to inform quite a lot about how ideas were captured. I took on this sort of overall type outfit, and it also had an architectural feel and shapes to it. And in juxtaposition, I had a pair of heels, which obviously impractical, however, they were also quite architectural, and they spoke to something about balance in the space. A lot of things were at balance within the installation as well. I was extending this idea of the body as an object, objects and materials as bodies. And in doing so, I also spent a lot of time with the sounds, like inhabiting and living with the sounds of the space, and with the sounds of my own workings in the space. So these also went on to form part of the moving image work that eventually evolved from this process. So my process involved a lot of movement-based improvisation with the materials, which I captured on my camera phone, and I would play that back to myself. Which would be like clips of my working out that I then shared on socials. And the socials then fed back to me in a way that I hadn't expected. There was quite a lot of engagement and reaction. People were like genuinely enjoying things that were going on in the space. And ordinarily, I suppose, in movement-based practices, you would improvise and invite some people into the studio and get feedback that way. When it came to documenting the ideas, this was forming into a film work. And what I was able to do was I shared all the snippets that I had collated of myself working with the different materials in different spaces. and I was able to speak into the thoughts and ideas that I was having around the movement of the camera and travelling between the spaces, because I captured that as well. And then I was able to share that with the filmmaker, which was really great, because he could see what I'd been doing, where I'd been working, and how I'd been doing it. It's otherwise a really abstract thing to describe or explain to a person. I think we did it all in one day. I think we shot photos first and then film afterwards. And the shooting of the photographs effectively also then became my warm-up and Simon's sort of preview to the movement that I was going to do to camera. So I had accumulated all these clips of me working across the gallery spaces with these different materials in situ and travelling between the spaces as well. And architecturally and within the frame, they looked really interesting and worked in enough of themselves. And so when it came to documenting that work, I was really keen to work with someone to not just capture the moments in it in a still format, but to capture them as a moving, travelling kind of documentation. And then, and through that process, it's kind of becoming apparent that could be stitched together and edited into a short moving image film work as well. So that is what I went on to do. When Simon came in for the shoot, I had a map of the space and I had a shot list, but the shot list was actually a table, and it was a table of the different types of movement, the different types of objects or material that I was working with, and then the space in which I would work with those. And then I think there was another column that was perhaps about the movement of the camera or where I travelled from to. So because I'd been in the space now for 3 to 4 weeks, and I'd worked with these materials and I had captured the process through my camera and all the snippets, I now had an idea of what was working, what was interesting, and what I wanted to try and explore capturing with Simon, the filmmaker. In terms of filming and the edit, I gave Simon a lot of direction about how I would like things to be filmed, and I guess I was thinking forward into having options for the edit as well. But Simon's movement was as important as my movement, because Simon was wearing this like full body Steadicam, and he was being asked to often follow me through the space. So he would be doing a follow, or he would be tracking. He would be moving forward as I was moving forward, and then moving back as I was moving back. Or he might move back, pull focus, zoom in. And all of that was really important because I really wanted to capture that impression of movement. So for somebody viewing the footage, they also had this feeling of momentum. So they weren't just watching someone moving in a frame or materials moving through a frame or on a screen, but that in watching it, you might also have a sense that you were moving, that you as the viewer would be moving as well. So that continuous idea of being in movement